Hi guys, for our mini lesson today, we're going to be talking about thesis statements. The purpose of a thesis statement is to inform readers of the subject of a piece as well as the author's main claim. It is the most important part of an entire piece. A thesis statement is the focus of any piece. It is short, powerful, and to the point. The words that you choose for a thesis statement are extremely important, and they need to make sure that they reflect exactly what you're trying to say. A thesis statement is written in a complete sentence. Everything that you have in your piece should be, but it's for sure in a complete sentence. It exists in the first paragraph or the opening if it's a presentation or an infographic of any informational piece. Again, we know that informational writing is thesis driven, so it has to come early on in your writing. It is a one-sentence summary of the main claim of the entire piece. So you can consider your thesis statement almost like a one-sentence outline for your entire piece. And it is supported and proved by everything that exists in the piece. So when you choose your thesis statement, literally every single thing that you decide to include in your paper, everything should tie back to that thesis statement. Well, because of that, we need to talk about how to write a thesis statement. And so when you're writing a thesis statement, the first thing that you need to do is determine your primary research question. We've talked about research questions, and a research question is just what drives your search for information. The thesis statement always is going to be an answer to that main research question. So even as you research, even though your questions sometimes change and evolve, you need to ask different questions to find better information. The one question that you're trying to answer, the main question, is what your thesis statement is the answer to. In order to write a good thesis statement, you also need to determine the supporting paragraphs or claims that would be needed to support an answer to your research question or your thesis. The reason that I want you to think about this is because a lot of times we think we have a great thesis statement and then we realize we have no idea what we're going to write to try and support that. So you've got to make sure that you know in the back of your mind, okay, if this is my thesis statement, what are the 2 or 3 or 4 or maybe 10 paragraphs that I would need or supporting claims that I would need to be able to prove that my answer to my research question, my thesis statement, is true. Write a one-sentence summary of your paper. So a one-sentence summary doesn't have to be perfect, and it's going to be a really good starting point to writing a thesis statement. Then the last step to writing a good thesis statement is to revise that one-sentence summary and create your thesis. So as you're kind of wordsmithing your thesis statement, you're going to make sure that every single word that you choose reflects what you're trying to say and do in your piece. We want to stay away from any vague or confusing language or non-specific language because you want to make sure that it's a very clear roadmap to where you're going to go in your piece. You also, as you're revising, you want to make sure that your thesis statement meets all of the criteria that we already discussed. So as you're looking and revising and rearranging that one-sentence summary, you go back to these ideas that it should be short, powerful, and to the point, complete sentence, all of those things. One of my topics that I brainstormed was volleyball, and one of the things that I wanted to zero in on was positions. Well, now that I've researched and I've flash drafted, I've decided I really want to focus just on the libero position. And so my topic is the libero position in volleyball. My research question now is, why is the libero such an important position in modern volleyball? That's going to drive all the rest of my research. So my ideas for 2 to 4 paragraphs or claims are, my first paragraph might be about a description of the position. I would want to make sure that my readers knew what the libero was, and that's important because I need that to be able to answer my research question. I think a second paragraph that I need is the importance of defense in volleyball, because if I'm trying to prove why the libero is an important position, I have to talk about defense. The third paragraph that I think that I need are the physical demands of a libero and kind of what their responsibilities are, because that proves why a libero is such an important position. And then I think the last paragraph that I need is the mental game of the libero. They do so much. And so I think that's probably my strongest idea about why the libero is such an important position in modern volleyball. Again, all 4 of these ideas for my paragraphs or my supporting claims, all of them prove my research question. So then to write my thesis statement, I've got to figure out, okay, ultimately, what is my answer to my research question? So I could have had two. One option would be a list thesis statement, which again, if you go to that Schoology course, that Schoology folder, it's gonna describe all of those different things. But one option might be the libero has become an important position in volleyball because of the importance of defense to the game, the time required to train for the position, and how important the mental aspects of the game are for a defender. That's considered a list thesis statement, and so that's one of the options that I might ultimately decide to choose. The second one that I could take a look at would be a cause and effect thesis statement. Because I'm trying to prove why the libero is such an important position, it makes sense to use a cause and effect relationship. Because we included the position of a libero, the effect on the game is blank. So it's a cause and effect thesis statement. So my thesis statement for that one, my option could be the addition of the libero to volleyball has had many important impacts to the game. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you. Again, if you need more information, please go to our Schoology course